styrofoam underneath it when time comes. Again, I'm just trying to get this right now so I get some track up here and have some fun with that for a while. Up here in the mountains, I'm trying to get more sort of an even flow, not such a big craggly rock thing. We're gonna have that going on down here. We don't need it up there just yet. Now I'm gonna bring my little water up here, put my hands in the water glass, and then just start going like this. And look what's happening. Look how that's kind of smoothing out by doing that. You just run it back and forth, and it just starts becoming this sort of slimy, kind of smooth kind of surface. And we can always come back and add more sculpt mold later, or use some scenery materials to actually modify this if we want. So it just starts going like that. What we end up with here is this basic kind of hilly kind of shape. So now I'm going to go through there and start getting this area done. Looks like maybe I put too much water in it because it's sticking to my hands and it's not sticking to the project here. I suppose I could just cut the video here and move forward, but you know, some of this doesn't go quite right when you're doing it. Like right now, it's just kind of going everywhere. I gotta sort of do this on the fly to make it work, and so maybe having us all together when those kind of things are happening is better anyway. Yeah, that kind of little transition between the two hills there, right there. See that? That's kind of fun. I don't know if you can see that or not. I'm going to let that set up just a smidge so that I can sort of work it around a little bit more, because right now it's too wet and it's moving around. So I think we can come over and do this part on top of the tunnel portal. And we'll go ahead and mix up one more batch of sculpting here. Just to get this last piece over here. There. So we can put less water in than we did on the last batch because that didn't work out so good. We got a little too wet. Did it again. Oh well. Hey, you know what? If I was an expert model builder, you wouldn't see that. Okay, but I'm not, so deal with it. All right, so here we go. We're starting to now do something we haven't had to do yet on the layout, and that is we are blending into this existing area over here. At least that's what I'm trying to do. Sort of blend it in. Right? Down to here, so that later we will just sort of touch up the paint below it and then use the same paint scheme to get all the way up and around here. And sort of match. I know for sure soon enough. Show you something that's kind of cool. Okay, see this right here? This right here? That's where this piece of styrofoam and that join. See how there's kind of just this piece missing from it? It just kind of drops off. We see how these look like that down there? That kind of automatically just blends in. That's like an unexpected bonus that we didn't know we were going to have. It just sort of works. And once this is all dry, if we need to do a smidge of sanding here and there just to shape some of these a little better, we can do that. But so far that kind of looks good, just the way it is. So now that we let some of this stuff set up, let's do our final pass with the old wet hand technique and then take a look at what's next. Okay, while we let the Sculptamold dry, we can get one more thing done. That's going to require some dry time too. Let's go back to our sub-road bed for the railroad track for just a minute. We know that we're going to have rails coming through here, and while we're going to have the scene look like it's uneven and hilly, what want is a nice flat surface to lay the track on. I've discovered if you don't, especially around turnouts, it can start having operational problems with the translator derailing or getting stuck or something like that. So I'm going to try something different. I haven't done this before, what we're going to do, and that is actually go through and put this in. Normally I just sort of wing it and say, yeah, it's going to be fine, and it turns out I'm generally kind of wrong. One of the things we have to do, I'm noticing right here, is some of this is not quite flat enough to even put the surface on. So let's take a sanding sponge here real quick, and I can use a sanding sponge right here on this styrofoam to sort of flatten it all out through the whole area. So let's do that, and then we can lay the putty down that I'm going to lay down. Now it's kind of hard to show this in great detail with the camera angle, but just so you get an idea, I'm just sort of going over here. With this sanding sponge. Now this is just a 3M 60 coarse sanding sponge. Just what I had lying around. It's nothing special that I'm aware of. But anyway, it sands down the styrofoam pretty good. I think that might be pretty good. Hopefully I'm right, because what we're going to do now, we cannot reverse unless we just start over. So, get rid of all of that, the regular guy kind of way. Now I'm going to try some stuff here. Right there, it's the, here. Right there, it's the Pro Bond Wood Filler Natural. This is like a wood filler, and it's natural, so we're going to give it a shot. Sometimes you take the putty like you get out of the, the can, it's pink, and then it dries the color it's supposed to be and all that, but I saw this stuff at Lowe's today, and I figured, well, let's just give it a shot. So with any luck, start back here, take this stuff and squeeze it. And we know we got like a turnout there. There's a pipe zone right there, right? And the turnout keeps going. Pipe zone right here. And even back to here. Now this is going to be pretty smooth back here to be. Begin with, but we'll just give this a whirl and see how things work. All right, putty knife time. And the good news is there's no way I can fit my putty knife in back there. Well, okay. So we'll just do what we can. And I'm just sort of getting this down to cover all the big nooks and crannies. And then do maybe a little fine tuning with some sandpaper when the time comes. But there's a concern that's right in through here. Just need to fill this in for sure. It's filled in, and oh look, we found a mystery tea pen. Oh, there you go. So it's kind of like mustard coming out of this bottle. I don't know, it's making me hungry for deli right now. If I was the expert model builder, man, would this look good right now. You almost wouldn't want to paint over it, but I'm not. So this is what you get. I'm winging it, brothers. I think that track will come along there. Fill that in there and there. Now the rest of this being all screwed up, we don't really care. It's going to be scenery. We're going to carve it up and everything. So I don't know that I care all that much. Maybe go through and put one more smoothing layer on this. some better. I think right here though, we'll get this and then we're gonna call it a day, all right? This little piece right here. Well, there you go. We've got Sculptamold on our hills. We've laid down our sort of sub road bed that later on we're gonna sand smooth. I can see there's some places here and there that probably could use a little bit more Sculptamold, but I'll work on that a little bit later. But let's let this set up, then let's sand it down, then let's put some track on it, and then let's finish up the scenery. And there we go. Got some carving done, got some terraforming done, got some planing done, all ready to really get going on that logging camp. So that's pretty exciting stuff. Make sure you stay tuned for the rest of the episodes coming up. Now, if you like this channel, do me a favor and subscribe to it. That way you're not going to miss any of the episodes coming up. If you liked this video, just go ahead and push that like button. Let everybody know how much you like it. And then, of course, if there's anybody you think might be interested in what we're doing and can learn something from this, or maybe even contribute, just share the video with them. Don't worry about it. I won't mind. Now, let me ask you this question. If you haven't started building your model railroad yet, what are you waiting for? My looks to improve? It's not going to happen, people. All right, that'll do it for this episode. Thank you again for watching. My name is Steve Brown, and I will see you next time. Now let me ask you this question. If you haven't started building your model railroad yet, what are you waiting for? My skill level to get better? It's not going to happen, people.
Cockatoo Mickey is trying to speak more to real Maori than your average Kiwi. Today's phrases: keep that pie. Not that kind of pie, bro. But yeah, I am hungry. Get to hear kaya. Where should we go for a feed?
If you're thinking about getting into model railroading, or you're already at it, boy, do we have a project for you. In this episode, we're gonna do some logging. Well, actually, we're gonna make some logs the regular guy way. And I'll show you how I do it, starting right now. Hey, welcome to It's My Railroad, the how-to show for regular people. If you haven't already done it, how about pushing that subscribe button down there? We have so many more of these episodes coming up. Watching me build up my layout the regular guy way. So far, it's been a lot of fun. Digging, hanging out with the community. It's a good time. Don't want you to miss a single thing. As an example, in this episode, we are going to finish off some of that terraforming we did last episode. And then we're going to make the logs that ultimately will be used as the road bed for the rails up in the logging camp. You remember last episode, a couple episodes ago, I showed you a diorama of how I want to make these rails, an idea I have. We're going to see how that comes together as we move forward. Okay, just before we move into the hobby room, a little bit of housekeeping. I'm going to introduce in this episode something that I use all the time on my model railroad, and it's called chalk paint. Chalk paint is a paint that it's water soluble. When it goes on, it dries kind of flat and chalky looking. You can mix it down with water, make stains out of it. I use it, like I said, for weathering, for making my mountains, my scenery. It's great. I can't say enough about it. Actually, my wife, who's into crafting and has her own channel, supposedly chic, she turned me on to this because she uses it for the same kind of purposes. Weathered wood, things of that nature. It's a great paint. I highly recommend it. I use black, brown, dark gray, and sometimes a little bit of white. It's kind of hard to find white for real in the real world, so I don't use it a whole lot, just kind of when I absolutely have to. I've got other colors of other kinds of paint we use for details here and there, but that's primarily what we use the chalk paint for. Chalk paint can be found in craft stores, Lowe's, Home Depot, wherever. It's not an uncommon paint. I've got some links down here in the description if you want some more information about chalk paint or where to get it. But again, this is something you're going to see us use quite a bit as we move forward. Okay, with that out of the way, just one last little thing to cover before we go into the hobby room, and that is this. between last episode and this episode, I went through and I did just a little bit more work up in the logging camp. I sanded down some of the sculpt mold. I cut out some of the styrofoam to make a little gully. Added some more of that wood filler because it wasn't quite right yet, and sanded all of that down. So what I did though is I just went ahead and made a video montage of that happening. So at least you can sort of see the techniques and kind of stuff that I was doing in the in-between times. But in future episodes, those actual techniques will be highlighted so we all get caught up on it. So for now, just enjoy the next 5 minutes or so of this video, and then we'll head straight into the hobby room. hobby room and to the Brownsmith Railroad. As you saw in that little preamble there, we've kind of gone through and done a little bit more work. Sanded this down a little bit smoother here, went ahead and replaced or added some more into here and sanded it down. I cut myself a little goalie end back here that I'm going to show you a little closer later. And then we're going to cut another one over here because I kind of like the way it came out. I'll just kind of show you how I did it. Actually, we're kind of prepared up here, other than that, to put some track in. So rather than getting all excited about going up here, I wanted to switch gears for a minute and talk about how I'm going to experiment with laying the track up here. Normally what we would do, or what I've done in the rest of the layout, go ahead and mark out where the rails go, and then we will take some caulk, some DAP, Quick Seal Ultra White Caulk. I don't know, I buy the white caulk. I don't know if it's a specific brand, but I know it works. And we go along and we just caulk out where the rails go. And you take a putty knife, you smooth that out real nice, and then we take our cork road bed and we lay it in there, and then we take our track and lay it right on top. That's how we normally do it. And matter of fact, that's how I will normally do it normally. In this case though, like I said, in the logging camp, I want to try to do something different. Rather than using this cork road bed as the road bed, we're going to make some logs like this. I showed this to you in the previous episode, and I'm going to show you how I make these. So we're going to get a close-up, hopefully one that's not blurry, in just a second. But the intention would be to duplicate the cork road bed effect with these logs coming all the way down to lift it up off the ground. Again, the theory being that on some of these hillsides right here, there's mud and rain and debris and stuff falling down, coming down the hills. And if the rails are kind of raised up, it can kind of go under, or at least it won't build up on top of the rails so much. I've seen some indication that that's how it was really done. It's sort of a bootstrap environment, which I'm pretending this is, and it's my railroad, so that's how we're going to do it. All right, so I set up this little work area here, so maybe I can show you at least how I turn these sticks into logs. It's really not rocket science. There's plenty of ways guys do this. I'm just going to kind of show you the way I do it, and then, you know, maybe you can come up with your own version of it. So as you can see, there's nothing really special about this stick. It's just a 1/8 inch dowel that I bought over at Michael's nearby. I bought a whole bunch of them because we're going to be doing a bunch of this. But anyway, this is kind of how it looks when it starts out. So what we're going to do is I've got my hobby saw here, and the thing with the hobby saw is it's got the teeth on it that we're going to use to sort of scrape out a barky kind of look on this stick. And basically I just take it and just sort of scrape it like this. Just scrape it along there, kind of at an angle. Scrape, 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 scrape like that. And then I take the blade and turn it actually just sort of right perpendicular to the wood and just get it going like this. And that kind of puts two different kinds of scoring in the stick. And it starts making it look, at least for in scale, kind of like it's got bark on it. Okay, like all things in scale, this is really hard to see, but there's now a sort of scraped up, barky kind of looking texture on here. Now, this isn't the only treatment we're going to give it to get that texture, but this is like the first thing that I do. And then from here we go through and we start adding some paint to it. Okay, so the paint we're going to use to sort of turn this more loggish, it's called chalk paint. And I have a black here, and I've got a gray that dries a little darker than the gray you see here, and a brown that actually dries a little darker than that brown when it dries. Now these are water-based paints, and the cool thing about it is we can take this and really water it down, almost make a stain out of it, which is the first thing I'm going to do. I've got some water over here on a brush, and I just barely dab it into the black, and then we just start rubbing that on. And we're not really trying to get it like all even necessarily. We're just trying to get some black on there right now. Just kind of get it on there enough where it covers it. I think it's okay to leave some kind of unpainted spots. I got a paper towel here. I just wipe it off with the paper towel real quick. And then we'll hold this up and take a look. So that's kind of what it looks like at that phase. It's got some black on it. It's not completely covering it. You can almost start making out the definition of the bark, but we're not done with it yet. Next thing I'll do is I'll jump in and grab some gray. Because what I've seen a lot of people do, and it kind of makes sense, is trees have apparently have a lot of gray in them. At least in the model railroad world. I don't have any gray trees in my yard. They're all brown, but in the model railroad world, for some reason, this actually makes it look tree-ish. I take that and I wipe it off with the paper towel. And now it's getting a little more loggish. And you get the gray on there and you get the black on there. But again, you're like, Steve, it doesn't look like a log. We're not done yet. The next thing I want to do is I want to take my hobby saw again, and while this is wet, and you know what, if this stick, for this next step, if this stick isn't wet, like damp, this isn't going to work what I'm getting ready to do. So what I'll do is I'll just make sure that we put a lot of water on this thing and make it kind of damp. And here's why. We're going to take the hobby saw now, and I'm just going to start hacking at this thing. And the thing is, if you hack at it and it's not wet, then what happens is you just get sawdust. What I'm trying to do is get a roughened up texture. I just turn it in my hand while I'm hitting it like this. And again, we haven't even put the brown on yet. Now we may need some more gray and black too. As a matter of fact, we probably will now that I'm looking at this. So I hack it all up pretty good like this. Piece of wood. Nothing too exciting about it yet, but again, we're just getting started. Now we're going to put some brown on it. And for the brown, I do basically the same kind of thing, just sort of start whitewashing some brown on it, just put some brown on like we did with the black and the gray. We just get it all wet and get it on there, and just kind of not in some uniform way, just kind of get it on there. And then we take our paper towel again, wipe it down. That's going to have two effects. It's going to wipe that brown down. It also starts taking that texture and kind of smoothing it out a little bit, making it more longish. Take a look at this. It's looking longish. It's like, Steve, there's too much brown in the log. I know, it didn't come out the way I wanted it. So what we're going to do is we're going to add a little bit more black. This we can do. Same thing, we whitewash some black on there. This kind of uneven, because we're figuring these trees aren't exactly even. Not only that, these are going to be logs when we're done. It's not actually a whole tree. So we wipe it down again. What do you think? Does that start to look a little loggish? It kind of does, but you know, to me, I think it's still too light. I think we need to add some more dark to it. I'm going to grab some more of that black. Just keep putting it on. Now, here's the thing, my friends. I don't have an exact science for this. This is just the regular guy version, and I keep going until I kind of see what I'm trying to see. I don't necessarily get it right on the first try. I just sort of do it until I get something I like. That's looking even more like a log now. I'm kind of seeing the grain. I'm kind of seeing the darkness of it. Maybe just a little bit more black. We'll just keep going with the black. This time, instead of wiping it off with the paper towel, I'm just going to just go like this. I'll just close it on there like this, so we don't take as much of it off. It's like I said, it's like a stain. It's actually soaking into the wood right now because there's so much water in it. But I don't know. It's kind of looking like a log now. What do you think? Is that looking loggish? Like a log? I think it does. Maybe just, I don't know, maybe just a smidge more black. Well, actually, I won't let this one sort of just set up, but we'll just go with this one for now. But there's another thing I can show you too with this. We do the same thing. We'll go through and we'll prep the stick. Because in nature, you know, there's a lot of variation. So to get a variation on this, I'll go through and give the same kind of barky structure, like that. Can you imagine? Oops, I broke my stick. Now whatever. Can you imagine doing this for like a 60-inch piece? Yeah, that's a lot of sticks. let's just go straight to gray. Let me show you something. I'm gonna grade that on there. Nice and wet. Paper towel. Okay, so now instead of starting off with a black, you see now we've got a gray kind of thing. It's like a light gray. It's like, I'd never seen a tree that color gray, Steve. I know. I'm not done yet. Hang on a second. We can try something else. Go through, stain up here and there. The whole thing. We're just going to add some brown like that. Kind of uneven. This one will wipe off. Like this. Now I've got some brown on there and barky. It's still, it's like too light to be a log, Steve. I know. Almost done. Now we'll take the black. Very, very thin black. Write that on there. Same three colors, right? But we put them on in a different order. So what we're left with then, the one on the top right there, that's the one we just did. It's a little more brownish. The one on the bottom's a little bit more grayish. You know, you can just work with all kinds of different versions of this. Once you cut them up into pieces, like I'm making little logs out of them, it's going to give a great degree of variation. If we want to, we just take the little one that we just did, and you know, we can experiment. We can go a little crazy on it. Let's get some black in here. Let's make this thing add some black to it. Like this. Before I wipe it off, it's got all this black on it. Alright, alright. Now look, there's two logs there, done with the same colors of paint, but they look different. There's a subtle difference in the shading between them. It makes them unique. Now, you can get it by reversing the order that you paint them, or applying more or less, or just, you know, just playing around with it. Let's take this top one more thing. Look, I'll add just a little bit more, let's say brown and black at one time to it. Watch what this does. Again, we're just experimenting, man. We're going crazy. We're having fun. We're being regular dudes. See, by adding some more like blackish mixed with brownish, I even have another shade of this. But the new one, you know, we didn't go through and hack it up again. We left it kind of smooth. All right, so back up on the layout. I know it's kind of hard to see some of this stuff with these camera angles, and to be honest with you, maybe by season 2 I'll figure out how to get the focus and everything to work on this thing. But for now, we're just regular guys, and this is how we do it. So what I think we should do now, we've already got this smooth road bed up here. I think I'm going to go through and stain a whole bunch of these, cut a whole bunch of them, and get ready to lay them down, and then we'll get that down. Kind of what we want to do is go ahead and lay those down, and before we get all crazy though, I'm going to come back and start butchering all of this scenery right here, right after the rails, so I can get as much of a hillside look as I can. I think if I do it in advance, we might either run into where the rails are going to be, or have this like long flat surface that I don't think will work as well. So anyway, I think let me get on that, and then we'll go ahead and lay some track. And we're back. Wow, really has some momentum going up there in the old logging camp, don't we? Now it really is going to get going. We've made some logs. That means we can make the road bed and put the track on it, maybe run my trains. I keep promising it, it keeps not happening, but it's going to at some point, I guarantee it. So guys, like I've been saying, this is how I make logs up on the BSR. It's not the only way to make logs. It may not even be the best way to make logs, all right? I'm really interested here how you make logs for your model railroad. Doesn't matter what scale it is. Do me a favor, let's put some comments down in the comment section. Hey, maybe you can put in a link to a video or to your channel that shows us how you make your logs. And if you've never done it before, again, I encourage you. Go down to Michael's, buy some 30-inch long, 1/8-inch sticks, get some hacking tools and some paint, and just explore, see what happens. That's how I learned how to do it. Watch some tried it for myself, came up with a technique that I like. I encourage you to do that. Hey, if you're enjoying this channel, do me a favor, push that subscribe button so you don't miss any of the episodes coming up. If you like this video, push the like button. That's okay. And if you know someone else that's into model railroading or wants to get into it, and you think they can use some of this information, just share the video with them. I won't mind. I won't even charge you for it. Now let me ask you this. If you haven't started building your model railroad yet, what are you waiting for? Flying elephants? Oh, wait, that happened with Dumbo, didn't it? Well, I guess I know how to do. Thanks again for watching. My name is Steve Brown, and I will see you next time. We have got a lot more of these episodes coming up. We're sharing some great stuff. What was that? Hey, this coffee is really getting me. If you're thinking about getting into model railroading, or you're already in it, boy, do we have a project for you. In this episode, we take 3 pieces of track and we turn them into one, and we make it happen right now. Hey, welcome to It's My Railroad, the how-to show for regular people. Hey, listen, if you haven't already done it, how about pushing that subscribe button? We have new episodes coming out every Thursday morning at 6 a.m. California time, and I don't want you to miss any of the ones coming up. Plus, in 2 or 3 weeks, we have a very special announcement we're going to make. You're going to have to wait for it. Before we get into the hobby room, I just want to take a minute and welcome all of our new subscribers. Wow. When I first had this idea, it was just to pretty much have a vlog that I show people what I'm doing on my layout and do it in kind of a show kind of way, because that's kind of how I roll. I did not expect to see this kind of support and interaction with the model railroad community. So I know your time is valuable, and it really means a lot to us that you'll spend some of those minutes a week hanging out with us at It's My Railroad. So thank you again, and welcome to all of our new subscribers. And speaking of subscriber interaction, in our last episode, we were making some logs, and at the end of that episode, I asked you guys to sort of share your log experiences and how you make logs with the rest of the It's My Railroad community. And a couple of y'all did. The mysterious Mr. C has an idea that includes taking shoe polish, black and brown, you mix it with some alcohol, and you dunk your sticks in there, rasp them up a bit, boom, you've got logs. It's amazing. When we get over to the port, I've got these little retaining piers that I make out of logs, basically, and I think that treatment is going to look pretty well on those. So in season 2, when we get over to the port, we'll probably give that at least a try. So thank you, Mr. C, for bringing that one on board. Also, my good friend Mark over at M&M. Mark's way of making logs is he takes a piece of paper out of his wallet and he hands it to some guy who has plastic that he gives back to him, and it's in the shape of a log. That's brilliant. I've never thought of doing it that way, but shout out to Mark for your version of building logs for your layout. Okay, with all that out of the way, let's talk about what we're going to work on today. We're going to, first of all, show you kind of how the structure's set up in the logging camp one more time, so we can stay connected to kind of how it's taking shape up there. Because between last week and this week and a couple of more weeks, we're going to spend a lot of time at the hobby table getting stuff ready for installation. So let's stay connected to the actual logging camp. I think it's a great idea. So that's A. B, we're going to trace out where the tracks go. Now this is different than what we did in the track zone episode. That was for scenery, so scenery didn't interfere with the tracks you're going to go. This tracing is going to tell us specifically where we're going to lay all the sleepers, that we lay the logs on, that we lay the railroad ties on, that we lay the rails on to build this logging camp. So that's what we're going to do. And then finally, the most significant part of this is we're going to take that first turnout, the 2 Atlas little pieces of track that come in off the Hillbilly Bridge, begin all the treatments and preparation to turn that into one piece of track that can be stabbed onto the end of the Hillbilly Bridge, give us a nice firm, solid insertion point for the rest of the track. So blah, blah, blah. There's a whole lot, right? Why don't we just stop screwing around in here and let's head into the hobby room. Welcome back to the hobby room. I went back through and I set the track up like we showed before in a previous episode and kind of laid the structures in there kind of the way we think everything's going to go. We're not 100% certain that it's going to look like this. But just let me point out some of the details we have here, and then we'll actually start prepping the track that we're going to end up putting in back here. So what I did was I went ahead and laid out some of the structures kind of where I think actually they're going to go at this point, because we're getting ready to lay some track. But this is that old stock room sort of warehouse that we had in the logging camp before. This is the bunkhouse slash eatery. Remember the Del Taco? Before there was a Del Taco. And these are a couple of the little cabins. May put some more of those little cabins going down along here in this whole area here. Also in the background, I bought these Z-scale cabins that I might try to figure out a way to put back here somewhere or something, and give some dimension to the fact, because it'll be smaller than the rest of these, so maybe it'll look like they're back in the distance. I haven't figured that out yet. We might give that a shot. Moving forward a little bit, we've got the bobtail caboose converted to an office. We're going to reuse that theme right there. This is a car that I believe is a cattle car, to tell you the truth, but I use this car to represent supplies coming from the port all the way to the logging camp and also to the coal mine. That lets me know what's in there. And then right here, this says pure cane molasses on the side of it, this tanker car here. But ultimately, when I refinish this, this is going to be the car that brings water up to the logging camp. We're going to have maybe a water tower kind of in this area or somewhere. We'll know better when we get into the structures a little bit more. And then we move forward a little bit more. This is the blacksmith shop slash tack room. Just for now, I just put those old tech pieces in there just because it's kind of fun. But there'll be a corral in here somewhere that the horses, they'll come down from the logging area and they'll hang out there and eat and do whatever horses do when they're not pulling logs out of the forest. And then way in front, I got this idea for the steam donkey here, that it's going to be positioned here, and its job is to either pull the cars from these sidings down here we'll look at in just a second with a cable, or they run the cables all the way back between the two spurs to a pulley and pull the cars the other way. I decided that basically the steam donkey is going to be used to switch cars around in the logging camp when the locomotive's not around, so that's kind of cool. But something else that we're very excited about is our disconnect log cars. We just got these in a couple days ago, and here's just one of them. I haven't put the rest of them together yet. But we're excited about these because they'll take bigger logs. It'll make operations a little more interesting because we have to disconnect them and move one forward when we have to log between them. I don't know, it's just kind of a cool thing to add to the overall mix of the logging camp and logging operations. Okay, what I think we'll do now is get anything that's not essential back out of the logging camp. We got these cars over here, we got the structures and everything. We'll pull those out real quick, and then we'll come back in and we're going to trace out where the track goes. The reason we're going to do that is because now we're going to take the track off, and that'll tell us where it goes. And as we start laying our roadbed, we can pretty much get it right to where it needs to be. All right, so just come back into here, and kind of the way I like to trace this out is kind of like right along the edge of where the track is, and here's why. There are guys that will go through and give you the center line, and that's fine. The problem for me with that is, and it's just because I'm kind of a dork when it comes to this stuff, I can't put down the caulking or the glue or whatever without covering that up. I don't know how to do it. So suddenly I lose track of where my stuff's going, and then I got to sort of align it on the fly, and that really doesn't work for me. But anyway, that's the first section laid out, and we'll just see if we take this off here real quick. You can see that. And then we've got sort of this channel right here. Ultimately, what will happen is we'll start laying those logs across here, the ones that we made a couple episodes ago, or last episode. We'll start putting those in. But up here between the turn on the bridge, I got a special way I'd like to do that. After that, we're going to do it a different way. And again, I'm making this up as I go along. I've never even seen this done before, so we're just going to have some fun with it. So let's just move on and continue tracing out the track. go because nothing ever works right on my first try. So we'll have to probably fix some stuff. But right now, let's just take the track off of here and go from there. All I gotta do is pull my pins. Okay, so we've got everything stripped off of there now, including the track. All that remains are the tracks. Anyway, but the next thing I'd like to do is take the turnout and the two short pieces of track that come in off the hillbilly bridge and just go ahead and put them together. And solder the rail joiners. I'll do it over on the hobby table on a really flat surface, and turn this basically into one piece of track by soldering those rail joiners. We solder rail joiners all the time, but in this case, doing it in advance makes it one piece of track. And here's why. I have found that with my limited skills, anything that's complicated relative to track, I can't get it to line up quite right all the time. I don't know why. I just seem no matter what I do, it doesn't work right. So if I get this all soldered together as one piece of track and then stab it into the hillbilly bridge, I'm pretty confident the radius will be good. It'll be relatively flat, and from then on we can just sort of do whatever we're going to do. But that's that initial insertion point, especially when we're going to try this new log road bed technique. I think it'll be more stable. So anyway, it's my railroad, and that's just what we're going to do. So we'll go ahead and solder these together, paint them, and then we'll go ahead and glue the